Hi friends, Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch here with you on Tuesday mornings live to talk through immigration updates and answer your case-related questions and to give you an action tip of the week if you want to do something to help immigrants. I'm here with Popcorn today. She's hiding. Can you see her? She's down here. She's very cozy, so I won't disturb her, but I got a buddy for us here today. So as a reminder, I'm an immigration lawyer in Texas, and I am here to share with you all the things that you may want to know as an immigrant or as a layperson so that you can go out and be educated talking about immigration. At my law firm, we represent people all over the 50 United States because immigration is federal law, and our mission is to bring peace of mind and security to immigrant families. I'm also happy to announce that we are expanding our services so that we can do detained cases. We've had to turn away over 150 detained cases over the last several months, really since the inauguration, and it was becoming a big need. So our law firm is expanding our service offerings to do more detained work. So if you know of someone who needs that support, feel free to reach out, even if in the past you've been told that we weren't able to help. So with that being said, let's get to the news of the week. I'll start with the press conference from yesterday. There was a press conference in San Antonio outside of the immigration courthouse. All around the country over the last couple of weeks, there have been immigration courthouse arrests, which is extremely disruptive because ICE is targeting the people who are going to court. They're showing up for their court hearings, they're following the rules, and not only is it horrific and it's separating families, it's also sending a very chilling message to the immigrant community that if you show up and do things the right way, you are going to get punished. We had one of our own clients caught up in a really dirty trick by ICE and by the immigration judge last week, and that was the cause of this press conference in San Antonio. There was a docket last week of a particular immigration judge who usually allows virtual hearings. She has since the pandemic, really. Her hearings are all virtual. And when we appeared virtually with our client last Thursday morning, she ordered us to come in person. Now, in retrospect, we know that she knew that ICE detentions were occurring because when we arrived, there was a lot of disruption. There were people being thrown against the wall. There was crying. Somebody had a panic attack. And the judge, over our repeated objections, dismissed the case and all of the cases before her on the docket. And lots of people were detained. And it was really, really horrific. Our client, what is a mother of 6 children here in the United States. 5 of them are U.S. citizens. 1 of them is a permanent resident. Her husband is a U.S. citizen. And they appeared yesterday with me at the press conference. Her husband and their 2 youngest daughters, who happen to be the same ages as my daughters. So it was very powerful to see those little girls stand up and speak out about their mom and missing their mom and the injustice that occurred. I'm sure that their mom would be so proud of them because they were really brave. It was a lot. It was a lot of cameras, a lot of attention, and I was just really proud. They decided they wanted to do it on their own. It was their own decision, and they wanted to speak out about their mama. And so we're going to keep fighting for her, but these courthouse detentions are happening. And the main message of the press conference is about this injustice that is occurring and about the fact that we are, as a nation, detaining people who are following the rules and doing things the right way. So not only is that just unconstitutional, inhumane, horrific, it sends the wrong message to the immigrant community. And I will also say, shame on ICE, because this is so low of them. It's lazy, dirty law enforcement tactics, because ICE tells us and the president tells us that they want to go after the dangerous criminals. And that's what we're told. And yet what we're seeing on the ground is that they are going after the people who are following the rules, following the laws, and doing everything the right way. Why? I can't get in their heads, but I'm going to guess that it's a whole hell of a lot easier for them to go and pick people up who are showing up for appointments. It's lazy, dirty, low law enforcement, and I'll just say it for what it is. I'm going to just go out and say it. It's really, really low. And everybody who's watching this needs to be speaking out, in my opinion. Anita, I see your, okay, your question is related to what I'm talking about, so I'm going to answer this. Even if you have an attorney, they can still take the person. So what's happening, yes and no. I mean, what's happening is that the judges are dismissing the cases. So when someone is in immigration court, the judge has the authority over this person, over whether they're detained, over whether their hearing continues, etc. And what the ICE is doing is they're going to the judge and they're saying, Your Honor, just close the case, just dismiss the case. And in the beginning, they were saying, we're just going to let this person file affirmatively. Super, super tricky deal. And the judges were like, okay, dismiss, fine. And the person would walk out and they would get detained. Last week, everybody knew this is what was going down. And what was so horrific last week was that the judge was almost like, I don't know what was going on in her head, but the appearance was that she knew that people were getting detained and she was okay with it. So here's what I'll say about if you have an attorney, because a lot of people watching are like, okay, what do? We have an appointment. We have a hearing. Do we hire a lawyer? Do we go? Number one, yes, please do talk to a lawyer before you go, because we can help you think through strategy. If you decide not to go to a hearing, the consequences are very great for that, because you will get ordered deported in absentia, and then you have a deportation order hanging over you, and then ICE can just pick you up and remove you, and you have very, very limited arguments to protect yourself. Whereas if you're in court, you have all these defenses to deportation, asylum, etc. You don't have those if you get ordered deported in absentia. So you remove a lot of options. But let's say you do have a case. Let me first of all say that most people who are going to court, the vast majority, are not being detained. So of course we're hearing about the people who are being detained, but the vast majority are going, they're presenting in their hearings, their cases are not being dismissed, and there's no problem. And we can tell you, looking at your case, if you are on the list of people who are likely to be dismissed. The people that they're going after more often than not right now are the ones who came in within the last few years, who entered on CBP-1 or CHMV parole, or who are Venezuelan asylum seekers. These are the more recent asylum applicants that they are going after. The folks who have been in proceedings for longer are not, by and large, getting caught up in that list. But if you have an attorney, we can talk to you and strategize about, what do we know about this judge? Is this a judge who's likely to go along with a dismissal? Is this a judge who might be amenable to seeking a continuance? Could we file a motion for a virtual hearing? Could we submit the application online or through the mail so that we don't have to attend a hearing? There's lots of different strategies. Could we separate out the children's cases and what's called sever the cases, so we're on a different docket? Like, depending upon the case, there's lots of different strategies we could employ to try to protect people against what's going on at the courthouses. But I will say that one thing that we need as an attorney is some time before the hearing. It's not easy to do this stuff 2 days or even 1 day before the hearing. So definitely do consult with a lawyer and give that lawyer as much time as possible to help you prepare. But definitely the advice is not to skip your hearings. And let me just say, I understand why someone would want to skip a hearing and go underground. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that puts you in more risk because then you have a deportation order. So I hope that answers your question. Let's keep going on the news of the week. So that's the courthouse detentions. And obviously this is ongoing. I'll keep you guys posted on what we're seeing on those. We have some more court hearings coming up this week. We're watching very closely to see what the judges are doing with the dismissals and what ICE is doing. Yesterday, ICE was not dismissing cases, but the media was all outside the courthouse and everybody was watching. So maybe they decided to take the day off. We'll see. Okay, so another note, this is just news of the week, and I'm touching on it because I want you guys to be up to date, but there was an attack in Boulder. There was a protest going on in Boulder. It was basically a pro-Israel protest. It was supportive of Israel and the Israeli hostages. And there was an attack on the group of protesters. And as it turns out, the guy who committed the attack is an Egyptian immigrant who had overstayed his visa. So we're going to hear a lot of media reports about the fact that this guy was an immigrant and immigrants, are committing terrorism and all of that stuff. And what I will say is it appears that this guy is an immigrant who was committing terrorism. I'm not disputing that. I will also say that the statistics show on a very clear and obvious scale that immigrants commit crime at a much lower rate than native-born U.S. citizens. Like really, really extensive data around that stuff. So when we hear news reports like this, just understand this is a one-off, and there is also great incentive on the part of certain news agencies to make it appear like immigrants are out there just committing crime. So I don't dispute that this was a crime committed by an immigrant. I don't dispute that that is horrific and tragic and that that was an act of terrorism by an immigrant. That is, not in dispute. But I do just encourage everyone to just pause. And when you see news reports of an immigrant committing crime, just remember there's a reason that this is making the headlines and that serves certain political agendas, and understand that the data supports that immigrants are not, by and large, the lawbreakers in this country. Okay, next point of news is about SB 8. This is in Texas. It's passed through the House and the Senate, so it's going to go to the governor's desk. It's going to be signed. This is a law that forces cooperation with counties, county officials, and ICE. These are called 287G agreements, and these are agreements where local law enforcement agencies cooperate with ICE authorities to enforce immigration laws on some level. I will say the SB 8 that made it all the way through the legislative process, thanks to a lot of advocacy by really great groups out there like Texas ILC, really appreciate all the work that these advocates have been doing at the legislature this session. This bill has been diluted somewhat, so it doesn't pack as much of a punch as it did as it was originally proposed. It does mean that county sheriffs are going to have cooperative agreements in Texas. And its population's over 1 million, so that's like 240 of the 270 counties in Texas. So almost every county in Texas will have cooperative agreements with ICE. But what's diluted about SB 8 as it made it all the way through is that the counties don't have to sign agreements that authorize or deputize their agents to go out and enforce immigration laws. This means the sheriff could be pulling someone over or stopping someone on the street and asking for their legal status. Some counties will elect to sign an agreement that is that powerful, but some counties will elect to do a lower tiered agreement, which essentially gives ICE more access to the data and the people who have been picked up and detained and who are in county jails. So that is a risk that has existed, that when an immigrant is booked in a jail facility, their data could be shared with ICE, and that's ongoing. So how do we interpret the fact that SB 8 was passed and that it's coming? Really, it's heightened awareness, especially with sheriffs in the state of Texas that when you're interacting with the sheriff, this could mean that they are looking to enforce immigration laws against the person. So as always, we need immigrants to know their rights in their interactions with law enforcement. If you're interacting with a sheriff, understand that they can't come into your house if they don't have a search warrant. If they stop you out on the street, you don't have to discuss your immigration status with them. They can only arrest you if they have probable cause for an arrest. You only have to answer questions about your identity and nothing else, right? So law enforcement can ask a person anytime, any question they want out on the street. So it's up to the person who's being asked the question to enforce their own constitutional rights. And remember, you can respond with a question. Am I being arrested? Am I free to go? So understanding those rights, we've got lots of information out on our social media. We've got webinars on this stuff. Happy to do more on this as it becomes more and more relevant in the state of Texas. But look for SB 8 being signed, and that's what they're talking about. The gold card has been unveiled, the $5 million card. I've said this before. I don't really anticipate that many people are going to apply for this. It's just, news. It's just headlines. And then we are seeing heightened arrests in Massachusetts. Around the country, Massachusetts in particular has been having some protests because they've been arresting young people. Like a high school student was arrested on his way to volleyball practice. And so we're seeing ramped up arrests. There has been a directive from Washington to increase the number of arrests that are happening. They're wanting to go up to 3,000 a day, which is a triple the number. So definitely we're going to see heightened enforcement happening. Okay, I'm going to move to your questions. That's the news of the week. I see you here, Sparkle KLR on TikTok. With the Real ID rule now for domestic travel, do you suggest undocumented people do not travel with passports? Yes, I suggest that undocumented people do not travel with passports. Here's why. In the airports, even traveling domestically, you have to now have a Real ID. You can't get a Real ID if you are undocumented. There are ways that TSA can confirm identity, but it takes several hours. It's risky. You could get detained and you're probably going to miss your flight. So just don't do it. If you're undocumented, don't travel domestically. It is really, really risky. Also, if you travel via train, car, or bus, you don't technically have to have a Real ID, but you could be subjected to law enforcement. So it's just very risky right now for undocumented people to be traveling. If you have some application pending for legal status, talk to your lawyer about when you might get a work permit, when you might be safe to travel, et cetera. But we just did a newsletter on this for our clients. And my basic advice is it is not safe to travel for undocumented people domestically anymore. Okay, another one from Sparkle. ICE has been very present around 812 and Palmer with the 812 and the state troopers and sheriff's departments. Yeah, places around Austin, thank you for sharing this. Bastrop, of course, North Austin, Williamson County, and it comes and goes. They're going to, pop up in different places. And I think I heard of an app. Somebody shared an app that is a great way. I mean, I haven't investigated this app, but it's a way that people can track ICE activities. I'll tell you my policy on sharing this stuff on social media. I don't share just rumors that ICE is in a certain place because there's just, there's plainclothes officers, there's people get it wrong, people freak out. What I share is if I have, if a person that I've talked to has firsthand knowledge or if we've seen a video, and we will share that stuff on our social media if we see that. But just be cautious when you see rumors flying around. There's a lot of stuff that is untrue about law enforcement. And again, if there's a law enforcement activity going on, you can be a witness to that event. You can get out your phone. You can record what's going on. It is legal to record law enforcement. My advice is not to interfere with law enforcement activity. The reason for that is because if the law enforcement agents perceive that they are in danger, that someone is getting in their way, someone is shouting in their face, that the drama of the event is being heightened, they are going to ratchet up their activity, their self-protective activity, and it could result in somebody getting hurt. So in my opinion, it is not helpful to interfere with a law enforcement activity. That is a controversial take. I've actually gotten a lot of heat and blowback on social media for saying that. There's organizers and activists who disagree with me, and they believe that it is the duty of certain people to put themselves in the way of a law enforcement activity. So I'm not saying that there aren't differences of opinion, but as an immigration lawyer, my opinion is to be a good witness, but not to interfere. Elisa on TikTok, can I travel domestically if I have a green card? Sure. Yeah, you can, but you need to get, Elisa, a real ID. So if you've renewed your driver's license in the last couple of years, you probably already have a real ID. The way to tell is to look for a little gold star on the document. It's in Texas, it's the top right corner. And you'll see that that's a real ID. That's what you need to travel. But if you have a green card, you're eligible for a real ID. If you don't have one of those, you need to go to DPS or DMV and get a new driver's license that is real ID so that you can travel without trouble. All right. I was a victim of an assault 15 years ago. Can I still apply for the U visa? Yes, you can apply for the U visa. The U visa is a visa for victims of crime, and there's no statute of limitations rule. You do have to get a certification from the law enforcement agency that says you were a victim of crime and you were helpful. And some law enforcement agencies have a statute of limitation policy. So you'll find that, like, I'm making this up. I don't know that this is true, but like Houston PD doesn't certify cases that are outside of the statute of limitations. Maybe, but you're not ineligible for the U visa. It's just dependent upon the law enforcement agency. There has been some back and forth on this in Austin at the Austin Police Department. It appears that the current position is that they're not applying a statute of limitation, but it's been in flux. So stay tuned. I'll keep you guys posted on what's happening with all of that. But to answer the question, can you qualify if it was 15 years ago? Yes, you can. You can still qualify for a U visa. Elisa, I was told that only citizens could get a real ID. That's not true. Permanent residents can get real ID, but we're doing an explainer video on this, Elisa. And if you want to send me, excuse me, any authority that you have on that, I'll take a look at it and help you. And we'll do some more media and videos on what people can get real ID and who can get real ID and who can't. I have a family member with a previous criminal record who was deported about 19 to 20 years ago. He wants to come back. Is there a way I can help him? Sometimes you can bring somebody back who was deported, even if they have a criminal record. Usually they're going to have to wait outside for 10 years or get a waiver. And then depending upon the criminal record, they may or may not be eligible to come back. I will say that drug convictions are generally a big prohibition against coming on legal status. Anything that wasn't 30 grams or less of marijuana possession is probably a prohibition against immigrating legally. So it depends upon the criminal history, but it's definitely worth exploring. And give us a call. We can do a confidential consultation to let you know. What happens if I file Form I-130 and I get divorced before the green card is approved? You won't get the green card. If your I-130 is based on the marriage and you're divorced before you get the green card, you will not get approved. And the vast majority of these cases are being called for an interview right now. There was a window of time pre-Trump where you could get approved for the marriage-based green card without an interview, but those days are over. Everybody goes to an interview now. So if you're divorced, you won't get the green card through the marriage. But remember that there's VAWA. The Violence Against Women Act is a program that allows people who have been subjected to cruelty in a marriage to a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident to get their green card on their own. And remember that cruelty is not just physical violence. Cruelty can be controlling behavior, emotional abuse, verbal abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse. There are, frankly, a lot of ways that people have been subjected to cruelty in a marriage that didn't, qualify as like getting beat. Okay. So if you are case pending, you are getting a divorce, please consult with a different immigration lawyer. Because this is another thing. Like, let's say I represent a couple, okay, and I take a case and the husband's a U.S. citizen and the wife is an immigrant, and I'm doing a marriage-based case for them. And it turns out they're going to get separated, but she's been subjected to abuse. I, as a lawyer, have represented both of these people. This man has also been my client, and I have a conflict of interest against filing a VAWA case for her. So she's going to need a new and different lawyer if the case converts to a VAWA case. This actually happens rather frequently. So a lot of us immigration lawyers have, referral relationships. Like I have a couple good attorney friends that I trust. And if I turn out with a conflict, I'll just refer to one of my friends. And most lawyers have that too. So you will have to probably get a new lawyer, but you'll, still get your green card. So definitely tell your lawyer what's going on, and then they'll refer you out if they need to. Sparkle. I love the word sparkle. That's such a good handle. Okay. Any word on interview processing times? Are they still around 12 months from the DQ date? Tell me what you mean by DQ. Do you mean the visa qualification? So every consulate is different, and every consulate has their own schedule. Ciudad Juarez is one of the longest ones. They're the most backlogged, but I would say, still about, I know what you mean. Never mind. Don't answer. Documentarily qualified is what you mean. So you are talking about consular. It depends on the consulate. It can be really fast in some of the smaller countries, but in Mexico, it's still about a year last time I checked. Can I include my spouse in the petition my father filed for me? No. No. Well, it depends. If you are older than 21, then yes, your spouse can be a derivative. If you are under 21, then you are a immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, and you can't have derivatives. But once you get your green card, you can petition for your husband. My mom is a permanent resident and wants to petition for me. I'm a single mother and over 21. Would my child be an issue, or is there another way? No, she can petition for you, and your child will actually count as a derivative, but you just can't get married while you're waiting for your priority date to become available. That's the thing, is permanent residents can't petition for married children. And if a child who has an application pending gets married, it terminates the petition. So that's something you have to be really careful for. If you're the beneficiary, the immigrant of a petition filed by your permanent resident parent, do not get married without consulting with your lawyer first. It's a big problem. I've seen lots of these cases over the years where we have met with someone who got married and they didn't know it would terminate their petition. All right, so that's all the questions I can get to today. We're at time. Let me give you your action item of the week. Again, this is just for people who want to do something to help. You don't know how to get involved. This one's a really simple one. Call someone you haven't spoken to in a while and ask them how they're doing. Just pick up the phone and give them a call, especially if you know that they are an immigrant or they come from an immigrant family. Just show some love and support of the immigrants in your life. Give them some love. Let them know you're thinking about it. I'll also make an ask before we close out today, and I'm going to be posting on my socials about this. We've had a couple of families impacted by these courthouse arrests and other detentions that are going on, and I know of several young people who I think could really use some assistance, like mental health assistance with like play therapy for kids or other type of therapy for the older children. And so if there are any mental health providers out there who are wanting to get involved and help, please reach out to me, because I think there's a big need there. So thanks everyone for being with me. I'll see you on Thursday in Espanol and next Tuesday again in English. Bye. Have a great rest of the week.